With the Extrema Ratio Satre, I'm in a fortunate position to be able to run some comparative tests I normally can't, as I have all three of the Satre models, and those are in the super hard S600 steel, the HSS steel, and the black and the stonewash, which are in the standard N690 steel, but also allows me to have a bit of a control between the two of the same steel. What I'm actually going to do here is run an edge stability test. So this piece of equipment, which has not appeared in a previous video I don't think, is called the SET, or Structural Edge Tester, by Edge on Up, who make the best certified sharpness tester that you see regularly. And what that's going to do is allow me to apply a small load to a roller and run that over the edge, so going backwards and forwards like so, with a very small 150 gram load, and that will roll the edge and change the measurable sharpness. So I'm just going to run through a few of the steps and hopefully produce something that gives you a little bit of an insight into some of this testing. So actually the steps I'm going to take here, the first thing that I'm going to do is for each of the knives where it's going to be tested, I'm going to first of all start off with stropping the edge, make sure there are no burrs or anything else that will skew this test result. So strop, then measure the sharpness, then I'm going to mark up the test area with masking tape, clamp it into the testing rig, complete the setup of the machine, run the edge testing, rolling backwards and forwards, the series of test runs, then take it out of this and measure the sharpness again, possibly run that a second time, and then what I have to do for that is run it for each of the three different versions, although two obviously the same steel. I am particularly interested to see how the super hard steel compares to these, so hopefully putting together a video with just showing a few of those different sections and see how we get on, and then see the table of results. So this is just the initial strop, and I'm going to be testing the flattest section of the edge, so I'm going to concentrate more on making sure that I've stropped this section. So onto the marking up stage, which I'll do before checking the initial sharpness. The testing jig moves backwards and forwards. The amount is marked on the sample holder at the bottom here. So this is what I'm going to be looking to just give myself some reference information. So a bit of masking tape to go on, if I can get to it. So I want to leave myself a little bit of room for stropping at the end of the test as well. So all three are going to be marked up in the same way. And then what we're looking for here are reference marks for alignment based on how far apart the jig marks are. So I want to start at the extreme that I can test. So these are going to be the extents of the testing. What I also try to do, because I have a sample area here, I'm going to take a couple of different readings for sharpness to allow me to get two sets of results out of a single test run, and so that's why I mark up two positions which I'm going to look at on the sharpness tester. So each one then has those 4 marks on it. And you never use any of the measurements from the very extremes, because that's where the jig's turning around and it may have a different effect on what's happening to the steel. So, all marked up. First thing I'm going to do is the initial sharpness measurements. So the sharpness testing you've seen plenty of before, but what we're going to be doing here is taking our 2 reference measurements before we start the edge testing itself. So position A, 193, and then B, 167. So this is our starting sharpness for this one. We'll roll the edge, measure again, another set of edge rolling, measure again, and then attempt to recover the edge on the strop. So if the edge is just rolled and is can be reshaped, then we'll see that recovers. Potentially, if it's very hard, and this is one of the things I'm looking for with the S600, and see how tough the edge is, on attempting to recover the edge it might chip, but let's see what happens. And now moving on to the actual structural edge testing itself. As I put the blade into the holder, I want to try and keep the flat part of the edge I'm testing level. We try not to have any rise or fall from the load applied. I'm lining up the marks I have with the reference marks on the blade. Check the extent of the motion of the test load, which lines up with the testing area. Lining it up centrally to the test roller, which is at an angle so that it pushes the edge one way rather than just straight down. This is bringing the roller to within testing distance, and I need to keep it straight so that once I allow it to drop onto the edge, I'm only travelling along the blade and not at an angle to it. So now to release the load down onto the blade. Checking that I have contact, and it's going to be back and forward 5 times. Two, 3, 4, 5. Lift and capture the load. So that's the testing of the first one. I'll repeat all of this and then we'll take the actual measurements. And the first set of sharpness tests following the edge rolling. So that's now 460. .476, and we're back now to do the second series. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be the last of the actual edge rolling. What I'm also going to see if I can do is use a magnified view of the rolled edge once I've done the sharpness testing to see if there's anything visible, and then we're going to try and recover Strop and see what all the figures say. So it's just a quick whiz through the second set sharpness measurements. .503. .58 to 1. And in this final part of the process of this testing is to carry out what I would call a recovery strop. So we have some edge rolling evidenced by the loss of sharpness measurements, and I'm going to strop the edge, take some sharpness measurements, and what I'm looking for is to see if I can actually get back to the starting sharpness at least, and run that for all of the different versions, and that will all be in a table of results. So I have the test section of edge that is really what I need to work on. And onto the recovery strop. So the edge rolling should have pushed the edge in that direction, so the first part of the strop I'm going to do will be to bring that back in line. Not using any cutting compound, just the strop to align the edge. Let's see where we are. So we had a starting sharpness for this one of 193, so quite a way to come back. 197. And the second measurement, $197. However, the previous one was 167 for B, so we're not there yet. So I'm going to give it a bit more of a strop and see if we can recover all the way. $191, that's a slight improvement. $190. Slight improvement, but still not quite to the starting point. And I will keep going and repeat this for the other two blades as well. And that is all three versions of the Extrema Ratio Satre taken through the full structural edge testing and recovery strops, and all of that data is now tabulated, and we can look at that later and see what it means.